hide your kids, because if you don't, the child might actually eat them. You'll have to watch the episode to know what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today we're diving into Season 2, Episode 2 of The Mandalorian, The Passenger, directed by Peyton Reed. Yes, this is the Peyton Reed episode, director of Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it's written by Jon Favreau. Guys, we're going to get into some spoilers here, so if you haven't seen the episode, please do come back and let's talk all about it. And before we get into it, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on that bell so you don't miss out on any Mandalorian reviews every single week. We are talking The Mandalorian. So yes, if you missed my episode 1 review for Season 2, go ahead, check it out at the top of the screen. And we're going to get into a lot more content over the next few weeks. If you haven't, guys, go ahead and get loud in the comments as well, and let me know what you thought of this episode. There's a lot to talk about, and a lot of it's good. So this episode is more so of an adventure type of episode. We have no sort of ties to Moff Gideon or, of course, Boba Fett, who we were teased with at the end of the Season 2 premiere. This episode, and I will kind of summarize it here, is the Mandalorian must ferry a passenger with precious cargo on a risky journey. This is very much a space western type feel with a lot more action. So let's get into what I think most people will love about this episode, and that is the action. This is a 41-minute episode, which is much shorter, not by a lot, but it is shorter than the Season 2 premiere, which was a slow burn. So if you're a fan of slow burns, you'll still appreciate this, but if you did not like the slow burn feel in that Season 2 premiere, you're really going to enjoy this episode because it's much more action-oriented and a lot more condensed. I mean, right away we get into the action where Mando and the child are fighting off these bandits who try to not only steal his armor, but want to steal the child. Again, there's a lot of character development in the middle of this action, which is why I think the writing here was so important to what made this episode great. And kind of staying on the topic of the action sequences, guys, this series has made the Star Wars universe feel more alive in 41 minutes than it has felt in a very long time. Director Peyton Reed puts us in the skies with X-Wings and the Razor Crest, where the cinematography was absolutely amazing. And then we're led into a high-speed intergalactic chase in the same moment while being on an icy planet full of spiders, and that was not fun because, guys, I'm an arachnophobe, so I was freaking out, my skin was crawling. But what I really loved is that the action sequences weren't over the top, right? Yes, intergalactic high-speed chase sounds crazy, but it's something that you've come to expect from Star Wars. It's very familiar, but it also presents new challenges, right? Because we're learning more about Mando and the child's relationship, and this new character, Frog Lady, who we'll talk about in a little bit. So I love the fact that this show really just gives us the best of Star Wars. It not only makes me feel like a kid, but it makes me so engaged and it makes me feel like my time is not being wasted. Now, of course, again, this episode did not talk much about Boba Fett or Moff Gideon, but it's these side missions that really is keeping this series afloat. If it was just about the main story, I don't think we'd feel as good, at least I wouldn't feel as good about The Mandalorian as I do. Already through 2 episodes, I can confidently tell you that I'm liking this much more than Season 1. And on a technical level, The Mandalorian again continues to display that beautiful merger between CGI and practical effects. When we see it on full display really is in that first scene, sure, but I loved it much more in the following scene when we go meet up with Peli and we see Dr. Mandible and then Frog Lady. Guys, I don't know how they're pulling this off, but the practical effects director here needs to get a raise because everything here, that cast and crew has been working so hard and it looks so darn authentic. And speaking of Peli, I need to shout out actor Amy Sedaris. Man, not only is she very good on her own, but in this series, she's a scene stealer. Yes, I get the argument that she's just there to give missions to Mando, but here we see her playing a high-stakes card game with Dr. Mandible, and there's this line of dialogue that she just continues to deliver that's fun. It's just so darn Han Solo-ish in a way sometimes, but she's snarky, she's a smart aleck. I love the fact that she's in this show because she really makes that character her own, and yes, she's a scene stealer, 110%. But this is yet another reason why I love Star Wars. In this crazy universe that does not exist clearly, we're introduced to characters that are humane, that we can relate to, and it makes it feel all the more real, raw, and just so darn fun. So yes, I love this episode of Telling Clearly, but we need to now get into some specifics. I did mention the Frog Lady a little while ago, but this is a creature that is going along with Mando and the child. He has to deliver her safely to, I believe, her husband on this planet that they're trying to, of course, keep their spawn alive. So she's carrying around with her eggs, essentially, and they can't go into hyperdrive. They need to go into sublight, because if they go too fast or things like that, I'm guessing the eggs would die and her offspring would be kaput. So they need to keep their lineage alive. However, the child has this weird fascination with these eggs, and we get that in these long drawn out shots that kind of tease that. And then eventually this episode goes crazy and shows us the child eating the spawn of this frog lady. I'm not kidding. Eating the eggs and enjoying it, and it is so weird. But then you see the child eating the egg of this spider creature when they're on this icy planet, and I'm starting to think, okay, why is the child having this weird fascination with eating children? It's odd. But because of the way the episode ended, which is the journey continues for Frog Lady, the Mandalorian, and the child, I do expect them to touch on this. There is this now attraction between Frog Lady and the child, and almost a protective nature Frog Lady has over the child, where there was a spider on top of the child's head, and then Frog Lady shoots and blasts this spider off, almost protecting the child. That could just be because Frog Lady's a good person, or that could be because Frog Lady knows that this child has now eaten these eggs, and maybe part of the Frog Lady lives on in the child. This is all so crazy. But outside of the Frog Lady, it was really cool to see actor Richard Ayoade make this awesome cameo appearance as the voice of the droid on board the Razor Crest. The Frog Lady uses it to, of course, translate her language into an understandable language for the Mandalorian. It was so cool to hear it. At first I'm like, Taika? But nah, it's Richard Ayoade. And I went and I checked Twitter, and I was right. So I'm glad. I was happy to see Richard Ayoade. I love them in the IT crowd. And these cameos in the Mandalorian really just keep me guessing, but also keep me so engaged, because I can just point out different voices and actors. So it was a ton of fun. And then I love the decision to bring back the X-Wing pilots we got in the first half of the episode to help Mando and the crew escape these spiders. What's really interesting is that Mando has done some bad stuff. He's a bounty hunter, right, by trade. However, once he met the child, we know that his life turned around, but his good deeds, they really paid off and saved him and his friends in this episode. I mean, it's beautiful to see that in this situation, while Mando has done some bad stuff, his good deeds are keeping him alive. This season so far is giving me everything I needed, and I didn't really care too much, again, for season 1 as much as others did, but season 2 so far through both episodes is just blowing my mind. This is exactly why I rush to Disney Plus on Fridays. This is why you need to be locked in, because if you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to absolutely love this series, and if you're not, this might get you in the driver's seat and introduce you to a universe that is so darn amazing. So yes, Peyton Reed crushed it. He introduced a lot of humor, of course, and his direction was solid. Jon Favreau wrote a great script here, but really it's just everything on screen that we were getting, the action, the acting, it just brought everything together, and I really like this episode. It's not better than the season 2 premiere, but I believe that this episode is a good buffer in between what I believe we'll get in episode 3, which is a lot more main storyline. So if we do, we'll see maybe some glimpses of Moff Gideon, possibly we'll get Frog Lady's resolution, and then we'll kind of skirt into getting back into our main characters. But I'm super excited, and yes, I'm still waiting on Sasha Banks. When are we getting Sasha Banks? Alrighty, y'all, well, there you have it. That's my real review and recap of Season 2, Episode 2 of The Mandalorian. This episode was so fun, but I want to know what you guys have to say about it. So go ahead and get loud in the comments below and let me know your thoughts on this episode. If you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more reviews just like this. We got a busy week coming up. Actually, the rest of November is looking real busy. Seriously, I'm looking at my calendar and what the heck? But it's a blessing all the same. So guys, thank you again for watching, sticking with me, and talking about The Mandalorian for yet another week. Alrighty, y'all, I'm gonna go work on everything I need to work on, and I'll catch you at the next screening.